Am I supposed to sit or can I walk around?
You can sit, you can walk around. It's your
Okay.
stage.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. If you asked me a year ago that I would be sharing the stage with a rapper like Abang Sapa, I'd be saying you're crazy. But it's been a crazy year. So my name is Sean and my pronouns are he, she and they. I identify as gender fluid and I'm pansexual. So I'm a storyteller. So today I'm going to tell you stories. And to tell you a story, everyone reads a book, right? Does people still know what a book is?
Kindle.
Yeah, so because I'm going to do it like a book, so there are different chapters in my life that I'm going to go through. And before I get into that, so I just press a slide.
Yeah, just go for it.
Okay. So that's this one?
Maybe the reception card. Let me press that side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I go next.
Point it to the laptop.
Okay. So before I go into the first chapter of my story, I just want to give you a background of why I am who I am today. So my first moment of vulnerability started when I was 10, when I stood up in class being scolded by the teacher for not bringing my homework, and I wet my pants in a class of 40 people. And I didn't know how to handle that moment because I spent the rest of my day with wet pants walking around in primary school. And I'm sure you remember primary school, right? Kids were making fun of you and everything. And why I didn't know how to handle that moment was because I was brought up in Asian. There's a lot of Asians here today, you identify with that. The Asian household where my parents are Christian, and I was brought up as a Christian as well. So all my life, until that point when I was 10, my 10 years of my life has been around, following the rules, not going outside the boundaries, and, slowly adapting to what society thinks how boys should behave. In terms of, boys should wear blue, girls should wear pink. So along that lines, right? So my parents, to their credit, they gave me a lot of love in terms of giving me a roof under my head, giving me food, and caring for me. But what they lacked was the emotional connection. So there was no safe space at home to come out to them or to share my day with them or be able to be vulnerable with them. So that was the hardest part. So when that peeing incident happened at 10, that changed my life because I started to realize that the world was a cruel place, that I didn't know how, if I didn't know how to handle it, then I would have suffered it, and I really didn't know how to handle it. So when I went into, that's the first part of my story. So when I first went into secondary school, I told myself that I wasn't going to be bullied again or made fun of again. And I was just starting to realize also that I wasn't straight because I was starting to be attracted to not just girls, but boys as well. And going to church and, in school, textbooks and everything is always the traditional definition of a man and a woman relationship, right? So I had to bury all that down, including the shame of my accident in class. So instead of being the person that I was, I took on another persona, or I put on a mask. And I remember my first week in secondary school, I just went to the most notorious kids in school and can I hang out with you? And within a month of secondary school, I started smoking. I got into my first fights, and I was already being punished by the discipline master. And to me, that was the start of me being the most alpha male, being the most masculine person that I could be, because that's what society says men should be, right? So I started going down that path. And that led me down to a path of self-destruction, because even though I got famous in school for being this notorious kid, I still didn't feel like it was enough. I feel like I needed to build up my street cred as well. So my friends and I, at secondary 3, we decided to go for a gang fight. We decided to plan for a gang fight. And we did. So we went to a McDonald's. There was no Instagram, there was no Facebook at that point of time. So there was McDonald's. So over Happy Meals, we planned how to beat people up and how to make people suffer. Because we felt that that would make us more men. And I was going along with that perfectly. But unfortunately for me at the time, and fortunately for me now, I got arrested before I even went for it because we were outed by someone in our group. We had 14 people, and I was one of the mastermind. So I remember that I was so afraid when the police slapped the cuffs on me because I was arrested in the shopping mall because that was our gathering place. And that was where we used to hang out before social media. So when the cuff was slapped on me, I was scared because I was like, what do I tell my parents now? Why I'm doing what I'm doing? And I had no answer. And the 24 hours that I spent in lockup was, I would say, the most eye-opening experience for me because they took away my glasses and overnight they took me out. The police officers took me out to question me. And because I didn't want to admit what I was doing, I kept denying that I was a mastermind. But I had 13 other people pointing their fingers at me, so there was no way to run anyway. And the next day, when my father bailed me out from the lockup, he was so pissed, he was so angry with me that he didn't speak to me for the ride home. And I still remember it was 9 a.m., 10 a.m. when I reached home and I missed school already. So I didn't go to school and I was alone at home. And my parents had gone to work. And I was living on the 9th floor at that point of time. And I just looked down the window because I was thinking, my life had reached to this stage where I had no one I could turn to, where I had nobody I could talk to, not to my parents, not to people in church, because I know the outcome of that. I know what they would say to me. And I was thinking, what if I end my life now? And instead of feeling like instead of that changing me, it actually scared me because it showed that my mask had cracked. The mask that I worked so hard to build, to hide my own true self, had cracked. And that moment of vulnerability showed me that I had more work to do to hide myself. So I didn't change. I continued down the path of, being the most notorious kid in school. And 6 months later, So 6 months later, I got arrested again. And this time I had turned 16. So at 15, I was charged as a juvenile. And I went to, as you can see from the previous slide, I was sentenced to a month in boys' home. And I also got a curfew of around 18 months. So I was still on curfew or in Singapore, they call it probation, when I got arrested again. So because I was 16 already, I was being charged as an adult. So I went to the subordinate court, got charged, and I was like 90%. In my heart, in the deepest of my heart, I knew that I was going to prison because if I had to roll the dice, like there was no chance of me getting away with like just a slap on the wrist. But I had a good probation officer and I'm thankful for him to this day because he actually fought for me in front of court, in front of the judge, and he got scolded because he was being too lenient, but the judge agreed with his reasoning and they extended my probation. So I missed prison. But what really changed me was because after the judge had passed her sentence, I was going to be released, but I had to be bailed out by my parents. And they had to go and get the money to prove that they had the money to bail me out. So while I was waiting for that, I was brought to a lockup in court around the size of this room, and there were like 20 to 30 men inside. And my partner in crime, literally my partner in crime, was with me. And he went around networking. So like just now what you all did, right? So he went around networking. He was like, what do you do? What can we learn from each other? You know, where can we meet outside? And for me, I was just sitting there and thinking to myself, I was just looking at everyone else, and I was thinking to myself, this will be me in 5 years' time if I don't change. I will be back here wondering where my life has gone. And what stuck with me was because there were some people that still couldn't get anybody to post beer for them, they were given phone calls to me. So there was this guy in his 60s. You can tell he's very old already. He was screaming into the phone and he was scolding his parents. I assume he was scolding his parents because he was saying father and mother in Malay. Yeah, so he was scolding his parents. And to me, that felt like the people closest to him had given up on him. And if I didn't make a change, that would mean that the people closest around me will also leave me because I was trying to be someone that I was not. So after I got bailed out, I went back to school, and I still had half a year left of Set 4 before I graduated N-level and then go to O-level, right? But one fine day in school, my discipline master walked past me and he asked to speak to me. So usually when he asks to speak to me, I'm in trouble. But this time I wasn't doing anything. And because I experienced that lockup just a few months earlier, I was receptive to change now. So when he asked me, I remember his question, he asked me like, do you really want to change? Do you really want to continue down this path of, getting in trouble and all that? And for the first time in 4 years, I actually told him the truth. I told him, yes, I really want to change, but I don't know how. Because I'm just stuck in the same environment with the same friends around me that were constantly looking for the next thing to do. And he said I had two options. One, to leave school after my N-levels to take O-levels as a private candidate or go to ITE. And to me, that was a very drastic move because the education system has always been PSLE, N-level, O-level, then go to JC or Poly. So I knew I had a big decision to make because if I don't leave and I continue down this path, then my life I wouldn't be standing here today, I would be in prison. And true enough, the friends that I have with me at that point of time, they have been to prison or they are still in prison. So I made the decision to leave school. And I found my friends. Yeah, so I went to ITE and I found my friends where I could finally be my true self with, that they were not trying to get me into trouble. We were focused on studying, getting into Poly, or being able to just have fun hanging out. And that started my journey of self-acceptance, self-love, and also being able to accept myself for who I was or who I am. And being able to forgive myself was a very big thing because I could finally heal from hiding my identity and all that. So I guess that was the first part of my life. The second part of my life was when I had to start to find myself again because I had spent so many years hiding, I now had to understand who I really was and what I really wanted. And I always wanted to tell stories. I always wanted to be a journalist. And being a journalist in Singapore with the mainstream media, you probably need a degree. And I didn't have a degree. And I knew that I had to work very hard to get to where I was. And being able to heal from my past helped me in a certain way, but it also gave me the courage to pursue things that I thought was impossible. And that was going to MediaCorp because I thought that that was the pinnacle of my career. I started in advertising, I was telling Wei, and I really hated it. No offense. Yeah.
You hate advertising.
Yeah, I started in advertising, but I always wanted to tell stories as a journalist. So when I finally got to MediaCorp, I thought I made it. I was like this boy who went to boys' home and now at MediaCorp. I thought I was like up there already. But I realized that in Singapore, like it's starting to change now with what the government is trying to do with the school system and everything, but it's still very degree first. And I realized that when I joined MediaCorp because I couldn't write. They told me I needed a degree to write. So I was only taking photos and videos and all that. So that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I left. But this was my second journalism job. The first journalism job, I had kind of been laid off from it. It was a tough time to get over it, but MediaCorp was the second part. Yeah, so I guess if you notice a narrative in my story, it's all about coming up against obstacles and trying to overcome it. And being laid off was something that I thought wouldn't happen to me so early in my career. And it happened. But again, if I didn't go through what I went through as a child, then I wouldn't be able to have the courage to continue. So layoff and this is a message, encouragement to everybody out there because of what's happening in the advertising world now. Being laid off is not the end of the world. Okay, so this is the part where I really came into my true self. This is the current stage of my story. So when I became a parent 3 years ago, I decided that if I wanted to help my daughter live her most authentic life, I needed to do it myself. And if I didn't do it, then it would be the same as my childhood, where there were no safe spaces for her to come out or to share her true feelings with me. And as the only person up to then I come out to, or the only two person I come out to was myself and my then girlfriend, my wife now. So I didn't really felt the need to share my identity or share my gender, or in terms of what we would say just now in terms of sharing on LinkedIn, right? Yeah. So I didn't really see the need to do that. But when I reflected on what parent I wanted to become, that was when I decided that I needed to come out to the whole world or the entire world. And I posted it on LinkedIn. So when I came out last year on my birthday, the first place I posted was on LinkedIn. And I turned off the app, I turned off notification because I didn't know what to expect. And because, as you all know, LinkedIn has become a place of, oh, look at my award, look at my promotion, look at my new job. So I did something different by using LinkedIn to share my coming out story. And I got so many messages from people that I didn't know were allies. I thought they would hate me for who I am, but these people just messaged me. I got countless of messages from people telling me that they were also trying to be their authentic self, and it was hard for them to do it. And for me to be able to do it so publicly, it was something new for them. So this is my daughter and this is my wife. And I guess my wife has been one of the greatest supporters of my journey. Because when I came out to her, she was like, what do you mean you are pansexual? Does this mean we have an open relationship now? And all that. So I had to assure her that was just what I identified with. I'm still loyal to the relationship. And all that. So we had a lot of navigating to do in terms of me wearing a dress, wearing a makeup. But she was perfectly okay with it because we go to Sephora together now to buy makeup, to buy skincare. We share clothes. But as you can see, she's more on the conservative side, so I like to show skin, but she doesn't. So, that's the only argument we have when it comes to clothes. Yeah, I'm more of the skin kind of girl, but anyway. Yeah, but she has been very supportive, and I guess it also helped me to be more bold and more courageous in sharing my story widely, because now when I share it on LinkedIn, I still get messages from people who, struggle with being authentic at work, or, struggle to be their vulnerable self in front of their colleagues. I remember this CEO who reached out to me from another agency. I won't name the agency. Not this, but one of the WPP one. Yeah, so one of the CEOs reached out to me and he said he had a coach, but his coach wasn't as good as me. From my story. So I was like, what do you mean by that? Why are you paying your coach? But anyway, I met him for lunch and we really had a frank conversation. So there's a lot of people out there that are still trying to be their vulnerable self and authentic self, and they're still struggling with it, even if they have a coach. So that's why I continue to tell my story to this day, because I get this question a lot, like, you keep saying the same thing, you keep posting the same thing, you're not tired of it. But I always say, like, when you look at the fitness industry, right, a lot of coaches say the same thing. There's only certain ways you can do certain exercises, but people still follow because they need reminder. And it's the same in the music industry as well, right? You use the same beats, you use the same chords, even though it's a different song. So people constantly need reminders. So my daughter is neurodiverse. We are going for her autism assessment next March. And in the meantime, we have been doing therapy with her. There's a lot of progress, but she's still non-verbal, so it's very hard to say this, but there's a possibility that I will never get to hear her voice. And that's why I want to be the voice for her now, in terms of, for people with special needs, who are neurodiverse, who are in the queer community. Through her, I feel like I can spread more of my own story and help those out there. And her meltdowns are terrible. So her meltdowns can go up to an hour, where she's trying to bite me, where she's trying to kick me, and trying to hurt herself as well. So as a parent who never had emotional connection at home, I had to learn how to regulate myself. I had to learn how to process my feelings before I help her. So that has been the biggest journey so far. And finding my voice. So she's not here today, but Kelly, who works at Vayner, and she got me here. When I started on this journey as a creator now, she handed me Gary's book, which is Day Trading Attention. And because as someone working in advertising and in journalism, I always tell my client's story. I always tell other people's story. But I never really told my own story before. I didn't know how to do that. And reading his book, this is not a plug for you, but it's just... Yeah. So I just reading this book really opened my eyes up to the various ways I can tell my own story, because you might see creators, influencers out there, but you don't know the journey that they take. So reading his book helped me to understand what I can do to tell my story. And basically I just take everything he recommended in his book and just did it. And that helped me to start my own newsletter, my podcast, where it's the human. I'll come back to that later. Yeah, so the Human Algorithm podcast is where I have creators, founders, solopreneurs to come on my podcast to share the different stories. So this guest, for example, Lynette, she has trichotillomania, which means that every time her hair grows out, she has to pull it. She has the urge to pull it. And it leaves her with bald patches on her head. It's an unpleasant sight, but it's something that she cannot control. And it's something that she struggles with. So she decided to shave her head. And I want people like that on my podcast because I find a common thread between these people because we all went through the same struggle in terms of finding our own identity, finding our own voice. She's now a creator with 11,000 followers on Instagram where she shares her own journey, and she recently dyed her hair as well because she managed, her biggest goal has been to color her hair because every time her hair grows out, she pulls it out, but she managed to control her urges this time around. Like there was one aborted moment where it failed, but now she managed to do it. So it's stories like that I want to tell because I feel like there are so many people out there still struggling with being their authentic self. Ooh, I went too fast. How do I go back? Okay, yeah, I found it. Okay, so I think out of all the chapters of my stories that I've told, I think the moment that it clicked for me was when he's my secondary school friend, so he saw the shit that I done in school and all the trouble that I got into. So he came for one of my talks where I was sharing about how to build human first brands. And he was basically my living testimonial because people were like, is this story true? Did you really go through all that? And I didn't ask him to come, he just signed up for it because he saw me promoting on Instagram. And he was just affirming everything that I was saying. And to me, that was a full circle because he saw me at my lowest moment. He saw me at the moment where I was becoming someone that I hated or I disliked. And now I'm this person that I truly am, and he's still my friend because I have a lot of friends that like the old version of me, but when I came out, they left. So he's probably one of the truest friends. I'll skip that. Yeah, so I guess for me also, as a creator and a solopreneur, being able to work a 4-hour work day helps me to spend more time with my daughter because ultimately my day is spent around my daughter. So I really set an alarm every day, like 1 hour of work, deep work where I work on my podcast, on my business. And that to me keeps me disciplined in a way where ultimately I can spend the start of my day and the end of my day with my daughter because I send her to school in the morning. Yeah, so I guess if you ask me what's the biggest challenge I have, it's probably going to the toilet. Because it's hard to find gender neutral toilets in Singapore. And like using the accessible toilet is one option, but I'm mindful of people with disabilities. I'm taking up their space, right? And when I would go into a men's toilet, when I come out, most of the time, the people who are going in, they look at the sign first. Or, when they come in, they see me, they automatically get out. So I get a lot of that, and I get chased out by cleaners as well. I remember once at Raffles City, I had to leave the male toilet because the cleaner thought I was in the wrong toilet. So he made a huge fuss about it. He came in shouting like, man, you're in the wrong toilet and everything. And I'm like, it's okay, I'll just use another toilet. But why I'm sharing this is because if I'm not my authentic self today, my alternative is prison. My alternative is having a criminal record. So this is the path that I've chosen to take because it helps me to live the life that I want and find my voice. Thank you.